Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I'm returning to you again, and I thought I was gonna go in the shower, but after this part, I will go in the shower, for just to take a shower, of course, because this is gonna be part two of best albums of 2022, in my personal opinion, and what I think are the best albums. So I'm gonna continue where I left off from part one, which this video will premiere at 1 a.m. For part two, of course. So I'm going to continue where I left off for best albums of 2022 for this part two and let you know my thoughts on it. So let's dive into this part two video for number 59, which is Cross's Permanent Radiant EP. Now, I really enjoyed Sensation. It's grown on me a little more, and sorry about that background noise, it's someone's car or whatever. They're being fucking assholes, in my honest opinion. Um, Basically, sorry for the noise in the background. Yeah, Cross's Permanent Radiant EP was pretty good. Vivian was a solid track, but there were other songs on this EP I did personally enjoy. Sensation has grown on me a lot more throughout time, but there's other songs on here that I could connect with from this EP. I think there was like 6 or 7 songs off this EP from Crosses, but Chino Marino's vocals are pretty good in this album, in my personal opinion, but I still enjoyed this EP for what it went for. So at number 59 is Crosses with Permanent Radiant EP. I'm glad this made my list because this was a pretty good EP that they put out this late in the year, which came out back on December 9th. Number 58 is Martin Garrix with Sentio. Now, this is a house dubstep kind of album, but it is pretty good for what it went for. If We'll Ever Be Remembered was one of my favorite tracks to end this album. I was like, damn, this song is so amazing with how it turned out. And mixing wise, this whole album did very good. Follow was a good track too. Really enjoyed that song, so I highly recommend you check out my album review for it, and also check this album Sentio out by Martin Garrix. So at number 58 is Martin Garrix with Sentio. Number 57 is Demon Hunter with Exile. Now, I did not think this was going to make it on my best albums, but it did, surprisingly. And it made it a good spot so far, kind of in the middle of the list or whatever, close to the middle of the list, but still pretty good album. Praise the Void is my favorite. Freedom is Dead is my least, but it's decent. It's grown on me, but it's still decent. It's not the best song on the album. Maybe probably the weakest song on the album, in my opinion. But everything else is pretty good. So definitely recommend checking this album out. Sleepwalker and Exile, the deluxe edition tracks, were pretty good. I still gotta listen to the longer version for the album, which is like almost an hour and 20 minutes long, but still gonna check it out, the longer version for it, but still. Good album for what I went for. Pretty good album. Praise the Void, uh, Heaven Don't Cry, Another Place, Devotion, Revolutions, Chemicals, Godless, Defense Mechanism Master, and Silence the World are great songs. I highly recommend you check those songs out. They're really good for what they went for. Along the Way is the final song on the album, and that was a really great track to end this album. So at number 57 is Demon Hunter with Exile. Pretty good album for what it went for. Number 56 is Louis Tomlinson with Faith in the Future. Now, this is a pretty good album in my personal opinion. It took a lot of time for this album to grow on me. Bigger Than Me is my least favorite, and Out of My System was the least favorite, but it's still pretty good. It's not the worst song. It's one of the stronger tracks along with Bigger Than Me, but the 11th track is solid. Um, Silver Tongues, I think it was called. but not a bad song, but something at least. So the other tracks were pretty strong, the regular songs. So definitely recommend checking this album out. So at number 56 is Louis Tomlinson with Faith in the Future. Alright, at number 55 is Queensryche with Digital Noise Alliance. Now this was a pretty good album in my personal opinion. Not a fan of Todd Latour's political views because he's kind of an extremist, in my opinion, and an elitist too. Um, Mostly an extremist when it comes politically. But other than that, his vocals were pretty good in this album. And this album was pretty good in my opinion, but still, yeah, not the best album this year, but still a pretty good album. So at number 55 is Queensryche with Digital Noise Alliance. Alright, at number 54 is Spiritbox with Rotoscope EP. Now, I thought this may get at the lower list, but Sew Me Up has grown to be my least favorite song. But Hysteria and I think the track Rotoscope, if I remember correctly, were pretty good songs in my opinion. And sorry about the ding, that's my Xbox or whatever, dinging away. A notification on my Xbox. But basically, really enjoyed Rotoscope, the title track for this EP, and Courtney LaPlante's vocals and scream vocals in this EP were really good. She did more clean vocals through this whole EP, and a lot of experimentation with this EP for only 3 songs and a runtime of like 11 to 12 minutes. So, pretty good EP for what it went for. So, at number 54 is Spiritbox with Rotoscope EP. Alright, at number 53 is Nas with King's Disease 3. Now, I really enjoyed his rapping through majority of the songs. There's quite a bit of songs on this album. I think 18 tracks, if I remember correctly. I don't remember, to be honest. I haven't really returned to this album, but I remember enjoying it. So at number 53 is Nas with King's Disease 3. Alright, at number 52 is Diamante with the Diamond Covers EP. Now this had the Like a Virgin cover track. Running Up That Hill was pretty good. The Kate Bush cover track she did was really good. But Maniac was one of my favorites that she did. Her vocals were amazing in this. So I was really enjoying her vocals through this track. So she did very good on this EP for this Diamond Covers EP that came out October 28th of this year. And I hope she releases a new album next year. We'll just wait and see. But for now, at number 52 is Diamante with the Diamond Covers EP. Sorry, I said it wrong. So Diamante, the Diamond Covers EP that I just put at number 52. Number 51 is Palais Royale with Fever Dream. Now, this was a pretty good album. Didn't make it over the past the top 50, but it made it close. It's in the top 50, but somewhere in the lower 50s. But still was a pretty good album. There's No Love in LA. That was a solid track. Not my favorite, but something. Fever Dream is the best song on this album, in my opinion. And there's quite a bit of other songs like Paranoid, and I think there's some other tracks like I can't remember, Punching Bad, in my opinion. Sorry, I almost forgot what the song name was. I was like, I can't remember honestly, but I do need to return to this album for sure because it was a pretty good album. But mostly my personal favorite track on this album was Fever Dream. And there were some other songs that were pretty strong from this. What is it? Oblivion was another favorite song I liked from this album. So there's quite a bit of songs on here that I did enjoy. So at number 51 was Palais Royale with Fever Dream. Number 50 is Slipknot with The End So Far. Now, this is their last album with Roadrunner Records, and I really enjoyed this album, but I did not like the first song on this album. It was the weakest and the worst track on this album, in my personal opinion. It was average, but it could have been worked on a lot more to be a better song. But the Dying Song, Time to Sing, is a great track. The Chapeltown Rag is pretty good. Yen has grown on me, but not something I'd say is my favorite, but it's something. So at number 50, it made it at the 50 spot in my best albums. So at number 50 is Slipknot with The End So Far. Alright. Number 49 is Korn with Requiem. I actually got done listening to this album today again. Let the Dark Do the Rest is a great track. Start the Healing, my personal favorite song on this album. The Worst Is On Its Way is a great track. Forgotten is pretty good too, but Lost in the Granger was the weakest song on this album in my personal opinion, but still was something. It was something interesting. I like the bridge part to the track, but with Jonathan Davis screaming, "I fucking hate this every day" lyric, and all that, but still, pretty good album. Disconnect was pretty good. Hopeless and Beaten was pretty good. Penance to Sorrow is my favorite. My Confession is a little weird, but still pretty good. So, yeah, I really enjoyed Korn's new album, Requiem, and it made it at number 49. So, number 49 is Korn with Requiem. Alright, at number 48 is Scorpions with Rock Believer. Now, this is a pretty good album. I liked Shining of Your Soul. That was my favorite. And what was that song? Rock Believer was a great track, in my opinion. The first track on here is pretty good. Roots in My Boots, I think, is another one that I did kind of enjoy. Knock 'em Dead was pretty rockin' song. And there were other tracks like Peacemaker that was solid. But When You Know Where You Come From was a great song to end the regular edition. But there were really great tracks like Shoot From Your Heart is a pretty good song. So I really enjoyed this album, but my personal favorite has got to be Shining of Your Soul from this album. And the first track was pretty good too. So number 48 is Scorpions with Rock Believer. Number 47 is Black Veil Brides with the Morning EP. Now, I really enjoyed Savior 2. That was a really good track. Andy's vocals have gotten a lot better as time goes on. I did enjoy their last album, The Phantom Tomorrow. It was a pretty good album, but not something I'd say would be album of the year, but still pretty good in my personal opinion. So at number 47 is Black Veil Brides with the Morning. Number 46 is Glasslands with the Deep. Now, this was a pretty good album. I Can't Bend, I meant to say, is a pretty good song. There's some other tracks on here that were pretty good, but they went really heavy. The lead singer has weird vocals, but it actually works with the track, in my personal opinion. So at number 46 is Glasslands with the Deep. You can definitely go check out my track review for it, or album review for it. Sorry, I said track review by mistake. But I think you'll enjoy it. It came out back in April this year, but it was an enjoyable album. Number 45 is Wolves at the Gate with Lowborn. Pretty good album for what it went for, or EP for what it went for, I meant to say. It's not very long. It's like 4 or 5 tracks on this EP. But Dark Cold Night is a really good track. Oh Holy Night, I didn't like some of the way the clean vocalist was singing it, but the first track was amazing from this EP. But Dark Cold Night really brings the EP to a good standard, a pretty good standard, and really enjoyed how this was made. So they did pretty good on this kind of Christmassy EP that they wanted to do. And they are a Christian metalcore band, but I really like Wolves at the Gate. So at number 45 is Wolves at the Gate with Lowborn EP. Number 44 is Like a Storm with Okura. I really enjoyed Low. That is a great song from this. And there were some other tracks on here that I enjoyed, but I can't remember them honestly. But I have to go back and listen to this album. It came out January 14th of this year, but it is a pretty good album for sure. Low is the best song on to close this album out, and really good vocals from the guitarist from this band, and really enjoyed the screaming vocals too. So definitely recommend checking this album out by Like a Storm. So at number 44 is Like a Storm with Okura. Number 43 is Kid Cudi with Intergalactic. Now She's Looking For Me is a great song from this album. Really liked it. And the final track, Burrow, I believe it's called, was pretty good. And there were other songs, Maybe So was pretty good. And what's the song called? Do What I Want was pretty good with his rapping. And Willing to Trust was really good. And there were some other tracks that Kid Cudi came up with that I really enjoyed from this album. There were some least favorites on this album, but still enjoyed the album as a whole. Ignite the Love and In Love were great vocally with his voice in this track. Those two tracks I meant to say. So at number 43 is Kid Cudi with Intergalactic. Alright, at number 42 is Northlane with Obsidian. Now, I thought this be at a lower list, but it still was a pretty good album for what it went for. I really enjoyed this album. Echo Chamber's great. Carbonize is pretty good. Abomination is my least favorite, but still something. And Is This a Test was decent. Not great, but still something. It's grown on me throughout time, but nothing I would say is great. So, Zen is my favorite, and Nova is really good, mixing wise and electronically. It's really good. Then you have Clarity, the first track on the album, that is amazing. The metalcoreness of the track and how it goes into the breakdowns and goes really hard with what is his name? Marcus's screams and all that. Really enjoyed this album for what it went for. Even the last three tracks, Inamorata, Obsidian, and Dark Solitaire, were really good tracks to end the album. And Cypher was pretty good. And there were a lot of other tracks that I personally enjoyed from this album. So at number 42 is Northlane with Obsidian. I'm going to have to return to you for part 3 of the best albums of 2022 video, so definitely stay tuned for part 3 whenever I get a chance to release it. But until then, stay safe, guys. Take care. If I don't do part 3 tonight, expect it tomorrow afternoon, because I do got to work tomorrow morning to early afternoon. So as always, I'll see you in the next part whenever it comes out. I might be able to release it soon, I don't know. I'll just keep you posted on my community tab, but this will premiere at 1 a.m. this video. So as always, I will see you in my next video for part 3 of best albums of 2022.